Oh, welcome everyone. Those of you in the room and those of you who are with us electronically. My name is Jim Farrow. I'm a gastroenterologist from Monterey, California. And I am going to be talking today about the Art of Living Foundation and about some of the research that's been done about the Art of Living practices in the last few years. So it's my real pleasure to be with you here today. The Art of Living Foundation is an international non-profit organization. We're an educational, a service, a charitable organization. We're not a religious organization. We have teachers from every religion, every race, practically every country. We're active in over 135 countries, and the Art of Living over the last 20 years has given birth to multiple related organizations. We teach a number of programs, and a number of programs that we call the Special Needs Program. Programs for people with diseases like cancer, depression, HIV. We teach stress reduction courses. We work with at-risk youth. We have corporate courses that we teach. We do conflict resolution. And our most impressive program to me, I think, is the Prison Smart program, where we work with incarcerated adults and youths. In the last few years, we've taught over 50,000 people in prisons. So why is life so difficult? What do you think? I think the answer is stress. So what is stress? Well, we've done some research, and according to our research, the human body is 20% water and 80% stress. Now, I want to define stress as anything that moves us away from health. Sort of a general, vague definition, but we'll talk about it a little more. So what's health? The World Health Organization has defined health as not the mere absence of a disease or infirmary, but a state of well-being at the physical, the mental, and the social levels. And I personally would like to add at the spiritual level. I want you to assume for a moment that there's 7 levels of existence. Now, most of us are used to thinking about the body. That's where most of our existence takes place, that and the mind. But perhaps it's wise to go over these. There's the body, the breath, the mind, the intellect, the memory, the ego, and the self. Now, the breath plays a really important role here. The breath is a link between the body and the rest of the upper functions, if you will, the mind, the intellect, and the ego. Have you ever noticed that when you're having some particular emotion, for instance, you're having a particular type of breath also? Have you ever noticed that if you're anxious, you're breathing very rapidly? Right? What about if you're really relaxed? All the emphasis is on the exhalation. What about if you're happy? Right? All the emphasis is on the inhalation. How about if you think of the breath as actually being a two-way street, and you can affect the emotions by affecting the breath? It's a pretty interesting thought, isn't it? If you're afraid, you can change the style of breath that you're having and change your emotional state. So what about the self? What is the self? Let's define that as the infinite, the unknowable, nature, God. The self is that part of you that's connected with the infinite. The self is always perfect health. So the stronger your connection or your union with the self, the greater the movement toward perfect health. So stress then is anything that moves us away from our divine nature, anything that moves us away from our connection to perfect health. It can be manifest at any level of those 7 levels of existence except for the self. We can have stress in the ego, stress in the memory, stress in the intellect. Oh, I can't remember anything, right? But usually those stressful things are reflected in the body. And that's where we're used to thinking of them. And these stressful things reflect as disease. Now, the stress can be acute or it can be chronic. Acute stress You almost have a car wreck, your heart beats, you get over it pretty quickly. If acute stress is severe enough, it can be life-changing for the rest of your life. It's possible to get post-traumatic stress disorder from one severe incident in your life that's never healed. I'll give you an example. I once had a young lady who was about 18 years old, a freshman in college. She was riding in a car with her cousin. He had a wreck. He was killed. She wasn't injured very badly. But after that, she couldn't ride in a car. She couldn't go to college. She couldn't eat or sleep. She lost about 20 pounds. She was nauseated all the time. Her family physician sent her to see me because I'm a gastroenterologist and she was nauseated. Well, after I heard her story, I decided that her nausea was the least of her problems. A very good psychologist actually worked with her for about 2 weeks. And since this was a very acute process, was able to heal this problem very dramatically. When I saw her back a month later, she gained her weight back, she was sleeping fine, she was driving a car, and she was back in college. Now, if she hadn't gotten some help, she could have easily ended up with a disease at some time in the future. Chronic stress is particularly well associated with chronic disease. Think of all the Vietnam veterans, for instance, and all the chronic diseases that people have found that they have. The stressors include so many things. Some examples: ill treatment, it can be emotional, it can be physical, overwork. Anybody ever overwork? Lack of sleep, dwelling in the past or the future. You ever think about that as being stressful? Something happens. What about the mind, right? The mind is almost always going off into the future, making up things, and having feelings about what it makes up, right? Having an emotional response to imagination, or it's going into the past, remembering something that's totally over with, can't change it, but every time you remember this severe thing that happened to you, the body doesn't know that you're in the past. The body thinks you're right here, right now. The body's putting out adrenaline, and so if you're staying in the past, staying in the future all the time, your body's taking the toll. So this is a tremendous stressor, being anywhere but the present. Pollution, air pollution, sound pollution, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, too much food, not enough food, what we put in our food, the type of food we eat, all of these are stressful to our body. Now, these stresses can lead to many problems. It's well documented that they're associated with coronary artery disease and heart attacks, gastrointestinal diseases. I've seen that for 30 years in my practice. Musculoskeletal disorders, depression, anxiety. There's even some pretty good evidence that cancer can come about from too much stress, at least one of the cofactors. In the 60s, an American insurance company wanted to make more money, so they wanted to know who got sick and who died young. Makes sense, they'd want to know that, doesn't it? So they funded a relatively large study. 100,000 people were followed over 10 years. Every aspect of their life was looked at. This was published in 1972 in the Journal of the American Medical Association, and what they discovered, I was just out of training there. I saw this and didn't believe a word of it. They said that if you lose a child for any reason, that this can cause your health to change dramatically. In the next 5 years, your risk of having a heart attack went up 3.5 times. There was a great increase in infections, pneumonia, bladder infections, in cancer, even in accidents. People that had these horrible things happen to them had more car accidents, more accidents in their home. I saw that and I said, this doesn't make any sense. Can't be. I don't believe it. Well, what happened is the next year another study came out, and the next year another study came out, and now we have psychoneuroimmunology, a new medical field, because no doubt that this happens. Other life events they looked at: loss of a spouse, loss of a job, retirement. You retire, it's a very stressful thing for you when you retire. I should remember that. I just retired. A change in residence. If you live in your house for 10 years and you move, you're more likely to get sick in the next 5 years. Maybe we need to do something. We should do something proactive if we move. Maybe we should go out and do some stress reduction work. So what can we do about this? In 1982, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, a very brilliant man from Bangalore, India, realized this connection between stress and health. And he developed the Art of Living course. Now, he devised in this course a way to reduce stress and increase health and well-being.